It was a late night, the kind where the world outside seemed to hush into a tranquil silence, save for the occasional rustle of leaves or the distant call of a night bird. I found myself out on an unusual pizza delivery, one that felt like it would stretch into eternity. The drive from the pizzeria where I worked typically took about 20 minutes, not an outrageous distance in the area I lived in, but certainly longer than most deliveries I had made recently. The order was particularly substantial, consisting of 4 large pizzas, a clear indication that someone was hosting a gathering. This also hinted at the possibility of a generous tip, which was a comforting thought as I navigated the winding roads. As I maneuvered through the dirt paths that twisted and turned under the cloak of night, I found myself growing increasingly aware of how isolated I was. When I finally arrived at the address listed on the order, I was taken aback by what I saw. The building loomed before me, old and dilapidated, its appearance far from welcoming. It sat awkwardly in the midst of a clearing, surrounded by thick woods, shrouded in darkness. There were no cars parked nearby, and all the windows were dark, giving the place an eerie, abandoned vibe. With a sense of unease creeping in, I put my car in park and decided to call my boss. I asked him to double-check the address, hoping against hope that there had been some mistake. After confirming it at least 3 times, I reluctantly accepted that I was indeed at the right location. He was in a particularly irritable mood that night and insisted I at least give it a try and knock on the door. Under normal circumstances, he would have been furious if we returned a pizza without delivering it, but the thought of bringing back 4 large pies filled me with dread. Despite the growing knot of anxiety in my stomach, I stepped out of the car and made my way to the front door. There was no doorbell, so I knocked firmly, expecting silence to greet me. And silence is exactly what I received. Disappointment washed over me, not because no one answered, but because I felt that all my efforts had been in vain, a waste of both time and gas. In a moment of frustration, I knocked again, and to my surprise, I heard rustling noises coming from inside the building. I knocked once more, announcing loudly that I was the pizza delivery guy, but again, silence enveloped me. My discomfort began to morph into panic, and just as I turned to leave, a movement caught my eye. Someone was looking through the window. My heart raced as I tried to discern who it was, but all I could see were wide, unblinking eyes staring back at me. A chill ran down my spine, and a sense of dread gripped me. Without thinking, I dropped the pizzas and sprinted back to my car. The engine sputtered ominously before finally roaring to life on my 3rd attempt. I hit the gas, eager to put distance between myself and that unsettling building, but as I drove off the grass and onto the dirt road, the car jolted and shook beneath me. Something felt terribly wrong. I hadn't made it far when a sharp scraping sound pierced the stillness of the night, causing my heart to race anew. The car suddenly came to a halt, and I stepped out, my instincts screaming at me to flee. A wave of panic washed over me as I glanced down and saw that all of my tires had been slashed. Not just the front ones, but all 4. Someone had done this while I was knocking on the door, and the realization sent a fresh wave of terror coursing through my veins. Instead of running blindly into the woods, I climbed back into the car and locked the doors, my heart pounding in my chest. The building loomed so close that I could almost see it clearly, the trees around me blocking my view, but not my anxiety. In a desperate bid for safety, I dialed 911, my hands shaking as I explained the situation to the operator. She was calm and professional, assuring me that the police were on their way and advising me to remain hidden in my locked car. She instructed me to stay on the line with her until help arrived, her voice a small comfort in the midst of my escalating fear. As I sat there, my body trembled uncontrollably, and I scanned the dark, seemingly endless forest that surrounded me. I knew it would take time for the police to arrive, and the thought of being so close to whoever had done this filled me with a deep unease. The minutes felt like hours, and just when I thought I might be able to breathe again, I glanced into the rearview mirror. That was the moment that shook me to my core. There she was, the same woman whose eyes I had seen peering through the window earlier. Her eyes were wide open, almost unnaturally so, and a disturbing smile crept across her face, sending chills racing down my spine. Panic surged through me, and in a split-second decision, I bolted from the car and plunged into the woods, not caring how much noise I made in my frantic escape. I ran until my lungs burned and my legs felt like lead, finally hiding behind a large log in the underbrush. I tried to stifle my heavy breathing, feeling as though an eternity passed before I finally heard the distant wail of sirens. Summoning the last reserves of my strength, I sprinted back toward the dirt road, the sound of rescue drawing me closer with each step. Eventually, the flashing red and blue lights pierced through the darkness, and a wave of relief washed over me. The officers parked in front of my car, their flashlights cutting through the night as they began to investigate the scene. I rushed out, nearly collapsing from exhaustion, and shouted for help. They quickly helped me to my feet and began to question me, and I recounted everything to the best of my ability, my voice shaking with adrenaline. One of the police cars moved toward the building while the other officers searched the surrounding area. They returned shortly with a few spiky objects that resembled the tools used to slash my tires. The police speculated about the possibility of a sick, demented couple being responsible for the attack, especially since I had seen the woman. Unfortunately, despite their efforts, they were never able to locate the perpetrators, and that haunting thought has lingered with me ever since. In the aftermath of that terrifying night, I made the decision to quit my job immediately. I found employment at a local grocery store, anything to distance myself from the horror I had experienced. The image of that woman's wide, staring eyes remains etched in my memory, a chilling reminder of how quickly a seemingly ordinary night can turn into a nightmare.